My name is Estella. I am the Family Services Coordinator here at Habitat for Humanity of Forsyth County, and today we'll be going over the initial introduction to the homeownership program and process. So we'll start off first with our mission. So our mission is seeking to put God's love into action. Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. And our vision is a world where everyone has a decent place to live. So we'll start off with some myth busters. So some people might have the impression that we give away houses. We do not. How it works is Habitat homes are sold at no profit to Habitat with a mortgage term of 30 years. The mortgage payments are based on affordability and will not exceed 30% of your monthly gross income. Another question we might get from time to time is Habitat a custom builder? We are not. So the way that it works is Habitat builds affordable homes for partnered families in the program. Renovated houses may or may not be available during the time for what we call house assignment. We build starting at 3 bedrooms, but we can build 3, 4, and up to 5 bedroom homes. Homes are built according to family size. So what this means is depending on the number of people living in the home would depend on the bedroom size you would be living. For children, if you have children of different genders, of course, they would be in separate rooms. We would never put a boy and a girl in the same room, but say if you have 2 children with the same genders, they would have to be 5 or more years apart in age in order to have their separate rooms. So these are some Habitat houses that were built this year. We are currently building in the Boston, Thurman, and Bowen Park area right here, right now. We are planning on expanding on that, but as of right now, we're still building in the Boston, Thurman, and Bowen Park area. So the application process itself, this is all before what would be happening before you even enter the program. So first you would start off with submitting a mini application. Once that application has been submitted and your credit report is reviewed and you meet the income requirements, you would be invited to an orientation, which would be something similar to what's going on right now. Once you've attended an orientation, you would be receiving a full application right there, which is where we would be asking for more detailed information and documentation. From that, your application will be reviewed again and processed through the program services director for approval or denial. Then following that would be what we call a home visit and interview. Usually it was conducted between 2 members of the Family Services Department staff that would go into your home to evaluate your environment to determine the need for housing. But right here, right now, we changed that due to COVID. So we are doing over the phone interviews, trying to get to know you a little bit better and see if we're a good partnership between us. And then if everything looks good after that, then that's when you would be invited to the letter of intent. And that is when you would start the homeownership program. So with the full application, like I said, we ask for more detailed information, birth certificate, socials of everybody living in the home, employment and landlord verification, your tax returns, a certified criminal background check. You would have to go to the courthouse to get this on your own. It would be required for everybody that's over the age of 18 to get one, and it would cost $25 to get one at the courthouse, and it would be right then and there that you would get it. If you are married, then I would be needing that marriage certificate. If you are divorced, I would be needing that divorce decree. If you receive retirement, Social Security, or any type of income that way, the award letter that you were given is something that I'd be needing. If you are a veteran, I'd be needing that DD 214 document and a $20 application fee per applicant, and this will be to cover the cost of the credit report. So when we look at your application, We look for the following things: for you to be a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, to be living or working in Forsyth County for at least 12 months, being a first-time homeowner. So to us, that means you have not owned a home within the last 3 years, have a need for housing, such as being in overcrowded conditions, the housing structure, or just generally being cost burden, or living in an unsafe neighborhood. We also look for you to have ability to pay, which is steady, reliable, and verifiable income for the last 12 months. Reasonable credit history and willingness to partner. Let's go over those last 3 things a little bit more. So with ability to pay, again, steady, reliable, and verifiable income, what we consider that to be is permanent employment, retirement, Social Security, or disability. Child support, we will count only 25% of the court-ordered amount, and it must be something continuing within the next 3 years. So depending on the number of people living in the home, if you see this chart over here, depending on the number of people living in the home will depend on what the minimum and maximum amount would be that you would have to meet annually before taxes. And these numbers come directly from HUD and may change from year to year. So if you are a person of one, your annual gross income has to be a minimum of $16,363, and you cannot be making more than $37,400. These requirements basically mean that you can afford a house if you make this amount, and the maximum, basically, if you oversee that amount, that just means that you would most likely qualify for a regular loan and wouldn't be needing an affordable mortgage, which is what we provide. Along with that, you would need to have the ability to pay $100 signing the letter of intent, which is the agreement of responsibilities between partnered families and Habitat. Have the ability to save $2,000 for closing costs. So this is something that you will have to save on your own throughout the time span of you being in the program, which is about 12 to 18 months. And this is also another way to get you used to saving your money from time to time to be able to have that emergency fund, because now that you're going to be a homeowner, you are responsible for upkeeping of your own home. So if there's a leak somewhere, if you have a hole somewhere, or any other issues with your home, you no longer have a landlord to send in a request for. You're going to be your own landlord, so that's going to be your responsibility to do. And that leads to having, backup money, or starting your emergency fund to be able to help cover those costs. You'll also be needing to have the ability to pay on current collections and debt. So must be making minimum monthly payments, and must not acquire any new debts. This means not getting anything new on a credit card, not buying any new furniture, not buying a new car. Anything that you would usually get on credit is something you would not be able to do while you're in the program. If life happens, we ask that you communicate with us to see if there's another way that you might be able to work out whatever situation you are without having to avoid to or reserving to using something on credit. Let's move on to reasonable credit history and willingness to partner. So for the credit history, we look for satisfactory rental history, no late payments, no unsatisfied judgments or owed the previous landlord any income or anything at all, no bankruptcies or foreclosures in the past 5 years. If you do have any student loans, they must not exceed more than 1.5 times your annual gross income. If you do have any medical collections, they must be less than $3,000. We have something called a debt to income ratio. This is where we basically weigh out how much you have income for the whole year compared to all your debt and collection amounts that you have. For our requirements, you must not exceed this 36%. If you do, that just basically means that you have more debt than income at the time and would not be able to afford a mortgage payment on top of your current debts. We never want to put you in a position where, do I pay my mortgage or else it's going to be foreclosed, or do I make my car payment or else it's going to be repoed? So if that means that you probably don't qualify right here, right now, you need to get some of your finance a little bit more taken care of, pay off a little bit more debt, and then come back and see if you qualify for the program, you're more than welcome to do so. We actually encourage that because, again, we do not want to put you into that difficult situation in the future, which is why we have that that requirement that you can't be more than 36%. And moving on with willingness to partner. So that is including signing the letter of intent, which is, again, the agreement between both parties, us, Habitat, and you, the applicant, moving to where we're currently building. Like I said before, right now we're currently building in the Boston, Thurman, and Bowen Park area. Always provide accurate information. This includes loss or change of job, receiving a raise, getting married or getting divorced, or expecting a child. We ask that you always, always, always communicate with us so that way we can help you in whatever situation life may bring you. These things will have an effect in you in the program. Not saying that just because you got married or just because you're expecting a child now, you'll be kicked out. No, this is not the case. It just means that we have to work out a few numbers, see if you still meet the qualifications, and see what we can do or what you would need to do in order to still qualify for the program, if depending on what the situation may be. We ask that you work with staff and contractors and volunteers. We do have volunteers opportunities at our Habitat Restore and on the construction site. We also ask that you attend required classes and make continuous progress on completing what we call social engagement hours. This is a combination of financial, land, home maintenance workshops, and depending on if it's a single head of household or dual head of household would depend on those hours. So I'll go a little bit more into that. So while you're in the program, this is basically what you're going to be doing. You're going to be participating in classes that will help you become a homeowner. These classes are financial classes that'll help you with your budgeting skills. So that way, once you move into your home, you're a little bit more secure or feel more easy as far as what you're doing and how you're managing your money to be able to make your payments on time and everything still be okay financially. And also with the home maintenance classes, so in order to avoid paying a plumber $200 to just do a little, screw here and there, you'd be able to learn how to do that on your own. So like I said before, for a single head of household, so it would just be one person that's applying for the mortgage or the deed, would be required of 300 hours, or if it's a couple, so two people that'll be on the mortgage or on the deed and that are applying, would be 400 hours. So it would be a combination of construction. Right now, because of COVID, we're not allowing any of our homeowners be on the construction site, but prior to COVID, we would require our homeowners to be a part of those volunteer opportunities to be on the construction site. So that way, you know what's going on with your house that's being built, and you're able to help your neighbor and helping him build a house. And that's basically how we build a community. Financial classes, budgeting, meeting with a certified financial counselor, and acquiring what we call a home buyer education certificate, and any other volunteering opportunities that would be given the okay by us. If it's out in the community, it would just need to be through us, so that way you can receive credit. And all these hours are basically something that you're going to get throughout the whole time span of you being in the program. So when you start the program, of course, you'll start off with 0 hours, but this is when you're assigned the letter of intent. At house assignment, this is where you have completed at least half of your hours and half of your closing cost. So for a single person or single head of household that's applying, you would have to have completed at least half of your hours, which is $150, and saved half of your closing costs, which is $1,000, in order to be what we call at house assignment. This is when you would be eligible to be shown lots. So depending on, again, the number of people living in the home and the bedroom assignments would depend on the lots that we would show you. If you are a household that requires a 5-bedroom lot, we're not going to show you a 3-bedroom lot. That's not fair to you. But then again, depending on what we have right then and there will depend on what we would be able to show you. So say if you come into the program and there's a lot that you know that Habitat owned, it doesn't always guarantee the fact that once you're at house assignment, have completed half of your hours and have obtained half of your savings, that that same lot will still be available then when you're at house assignment. But once you've been assigned a home, you've picked out your lot, and we start building on the home, about the time to close on your home would be when you have completed all the rest of your social engagement hours and have saved a total $2,000 for the closing costs. So this time frame for the construction building of the home would be around 6 to 18 months, which leads me to the estimated timeline. So the initial application process, which is the whole paperwork process that we talked about before, would be 1 to 3 months. The social engagement hours and construction of the home would be around 6 to 18 months. This is the time span of you being in the program, which is why we typically say that from 12 to 18 months would be the initial time from application until you move into the home. All right. So if you're asking right now, you're interested in the homeownership program, this is something that you feel you'd be great at doing or want to be a part of, how do you get started? So as of right now, the enrollment for our homeownership program is currently closed, but we will reopen in spring of 2021. You can either go onto our website to check on updates to see, if anything's changed or if we actually have a reopening date, or you can sign up to receive notifications on our website. So as soon as we actually have those dates, we'd be able to send you a notification letting you know, hey, we're reopening. This is what you have to do to apply. This is the link right here, or where you would have to go to apply. But you can always go onto our website of habitatforsyth.org and going to the housing section, and that's where that would be available. So right now, I am more than happy to move on to our questions. So if you want to make sure you're still muted and go into the Q&A little box on your screen and select ask a question, you'd be more than welcome to do so when it comes to anything that we talked about. So I'm gonna have this open to Brittany to see if we have any questions at this time.
So we do have one question. It says that I'm a legal resident, but under a J1 visa. After 5 years, I can apply to have an H1 visa, and after 4 years, I can apply to have a green card. Am I eligible to apply?
Great question. So, like I said in the beginning, you must be a current resident or U.S. citizen. So if you're a resident, you meet the qualifications. If you're a citizen, you meet the qualifications. If you're working on to becoming a resident, we would not be able to take in your application. But if you're a resident working to become a citizen, then you meet our requirements for that. I hope that answered your question. Do we have any other questions?
We do. It says, I went through awaiting disability and caused late payments here and there. Would I still be able to apply?
I'm sorry, say the question again.
The individual, they went through awaiting disability and that caused them to have late payments here and there. Would they still be able to apply?
All right, I see what you're saying here. Okay, so late payments is something that's, of course, if life happens your way and there's a reasonable, explanation for why it was, we'd be more than happy to work with you to a certain extent. The reason why we look at late payments is because we want to make sure that when you obtain a mortgage, you won't follow in those same steps of making late payments, because that will end up into a foreclosure. So if you feel like maybe budgeting was something that was an issue, that's why probably you were into late payments, then of course we have classes and workshops and things like that to help you in those kinds of situations, to always have that extra emergency fund that we had talked about previous. Because a lot of folks that come into the program they don't know anything about budgeting, or they never even thought of having an emergency fund, or even thought that it was possible. So with that kind of situation, we'd be more than happy to work with you. But again, I wouldn't know anything until you've applied for our program. And then we'd be able to talk a little bit more about your situation then. So I hope that helps answer your question.
And we do have another. Is a Section 8 voucher be used as a mortgage?
Great question. So actually it does not. A Habitat mortgage would be just like a regular mortgage. The only difference is that it is now affordable. So as far as what those payments would be looking like, we wouldn't know until the house has been built, appraised for, and you're at the final stages, which is closing, which is when we talk about the actual payment amounts. But of course, whatever those payments are, they will not exceed more than 30% of your annual gross income. But to answer your question, no, Section 8 vouchers would not be included to help pay for your mortgage.
And there are no other questions that I have listed here.
Okay, well, it is now 12:28. So I hope I was able to answer everybody's questions. Do we still have more questions coming in, Brittany?
Yes, I was just about to say we have one question. It says, I have a 16-year-old and getting disability for myself and income. I have a 16-year-old and they're getting disability as income. Would they still qualify?
Yeah, so going back to this screen for the income requirements. So we can include disability, Social Security, that full amount. So depending on the number of people living in the household, which would include yourself and however many children you have, the total gross has to equal that minimum amount in order for you to qualify financially with your ability to pay.
We do have another question. Can there be any evictions on your record? Estella, did you hear that?
I did. I'm sorry. I was going back into my other. So with an eviction, we will have to look at the time frame of how long ago that was. If it was something that was recent, then that might disqualify you for being in the program, because you would have to basically restart your rental history to confirm that whatever situation or whatever happened before isn't a continuous thing and won't happen now. We would be more than happy to work with you with whatever your situation is. We would just have to wait until you put in your application in order to review all the paperwork and everything. And then if my supervisor and everybody else agrees that you would be a great partner, then we'd be able to form a partnership and sign letter of intent with you. But I want to make sure that everybody's aware that I don't want you to be discouraged if for whatever reason you weren't approved for this time around. There is no limit to how many times you can apply for the program. I've had people that actually moved into their home this year and had applied 3 times before they could have been approved. And each time it was either financially, they didn't meet the income requirements, they had too much debt and couldn't and went over that 36%, or they probably had to brush up on their rental history a little bit in order to prove that they would be a good candidate to obtain a Habitat mortgage. So I would still encourage anybody, even though you think you might not qualify, you'll never know unless you actually try. So yeah, I still want to encourage everybody to apply for our program as soon as we reopen. Like I said before, you can visit our website at habitatforsight.org to see if there are any updates for when for any updates of when exactly we will reopen. As of right now, we're hoping and planning to reopen in spring of 2021. Make sure, if you have not signed up already, to be a part of our notifications list for enrollment. As soon as it opens up, we will send out a message letting you know what that date is and what those steps to apply would be. And I think we answered everybody's questions, right, Brittany?
Yes, I'm not seeing any further questions.
Alrighty, well, I would like to thank everyone so much for joining us today. And if you have any other questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to contact us at our main office. Our phone number is 336-765-8854. Again, that's 336-765-8854. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.